Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this World's International Industrial Design Day. It's an Industrial Design Day, and we have with us very reputed personalities of industrial design technology from industry and academia. So let me first welcome them all here on this podium, and I welcome you all along with our team member, Colonel Ravi Kharbanda, and are very young and vibrant candidates. So let me quickly introduce all to the audience. So we have with us Mr. Satish Gokhale, Head of Product Design, alumnus of NID Ahmedabad, and more than 25 years of design experience in product design. He's been past member of Indian Design Council established by Government of India, functioning under the aegis of Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion, Ministry of Commerce and Industry. He's been a founding member of Association of Designers of India. In addition, Education Council member of MIT School of Design and School of Fashion Technology, Pune. He's been invited to various seminars, conferences all over the world, importantly by Industrial Designers Society of America at Palo Alto, USA, as one of the 6 global thought leader to talk on the subject design for the other 6 billion. So welcome, Satish sir.
Thank you.
I'll take this privilege to introduce Ms. Shrishti Bajaj. She is a professor and an award-winning design leader, educator, mentor, curator with over 18 years of experience in design. She holds an MBA in design products from Royal College of Art, the UK, and UG diploma in accessory design from the National Institute of Fashion Technology. A former entrepreneur, she founded Design Bait in 29 and a design research consultancy, and was hailed as one of the India's top 20 creative entrepreneurs by IIMB and the British Council. Welcome, Shrishti ma'am, on this podium. Let me also introduce Vasant Devaji sir. Vasant sir has been supporting us and guiding us during the India Skills national competition as well. He's a design thinker with expertise in scaling up business through design research and a human-centered approach to new product development. A consumer design and design research across diverse categories, which includes travel goods, elevators, lifestyle, white goods, bicycles, and retails. His area of expertise lies in design process, human-centered design and research, design thinking, retail design, new product development, and many more. Achievements, I have a huge list of innovation, human-centric approach, and a long list to go. We also have with us Colonel Ravi Kharbanda, our own guiding force, the backbone for WorldSkills, and he's been with us with the WorldSkills since its inception in 2009. So, and he has been guiding the entire nation on WorldSkills since then. We'll also have Mr. Vineet Raj Kapoor joining us. He's a design thinker and he's India Skills expert for industrial design technology. A young and very talented Kopal Gangred is also with us. She's an India Skills winner for 2021, and she is going to represent at various national, international competitions for industrial design technology. With this, I welcome you all to this panel for industrial design technology. Being an industrial design day, I would really like to get your thoughts and views of how this industry, how this industrial design is going to progress further, and what are the scopes. But to start with, I'd like Colonel Ravi Kharbanda to please take over the session and share his thoughts.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you. Thank you, Pooja, for introducing me. Well, wish you all a very happy World Industrial Day. I'm Colonel Kharbanda, working with media and entertainment Sector Council as an advisor. Well, I'm honored and privileged to be among the Indian reputed industrial designers and importantly, among the Indian industrial design technology competition champions representing the country. This memorable day was founded on 29th June 1957 by the World Design Organization. Profession began in 19th century in Britain during the Industrial Revolution. Well, the first industrial design occasion happened in the year 2007, representing 50 years of establishment of World Design Organization. In 1957, there were just 12 design associations, which have risen now to 170 members from 40 countries. Well, it talks volumes of its growth and progression. This association put in collaborative effort and left impact on the world community. Well, today is the day dedicated to industrial designers who create the vision for the future by spreading awareness and getting people interested in the profession. The industrial designers, well, they use digital, artistic, and engineering skills to envision and create concepts and products. Well, the design should be pleasing, aesthetically reliable, user-friendly, environmentally safe, economical, and sustainable. Well, it's useful in all industry. Could be automotive, manufacturing, medical equipment, home appliances, furniture, etc. Well, the contribution is across of the industrial designers is across the world. Well, they serve the leaders in designing the future. Well, even the world scale community has recently acknowledged the importance of people with the skill and have introduced this skill in the world scale competitions since it holds the future. Well, today is the day dedicated to industrial designers who create vision for the future by getting people interested in the profession. Well, industrial designers lead lead the design process behind every project. Now, these professionals all across the world get good recognition and applause for their contribution. Well, few among them you would have been seen as part of a Steve Jobs, Mark Newson, James Dighton, so forth, plenty more. Well, my main is we would request all delegates to promote and create awareness among Indian youth for larger participation for the world scale competition schedule at Lyons, France in 2024. Well, these competition, if you're not heard, well, they all are into Olympics. They're very structured, organized very well. And there are about 85 member countries. With your promotion, with your awareness, creating awareness, this will enable Indian to set benchmarks at the skill competitions and make India proud. On this day of celebration of industrial designers, besides, we must resolve to spread awareness among Indian youth of its importance and the future it holds for the generation. Thank you. This was just a very generic introduction, and today is a day of enjoyment, celebration. Well, there you are. Well, you are the one who are professionals. We'll be hearing from you. Well, Pooja will take it on. Thank you so very much.
For sharing your thoughts and information about industrial design technology. I am So you won't be surprised if I'll tell you that 2 years, 3 years back, I only knew about product designing, but I had no this terminology. Industrial design was not in my vocabulary. So how you guys have been taking it over for past many years, and how what scope do you see in it, industrial designing uh, in future? So shall we start with Satish sir?
Yeah, hi. Good morning, and thank you for having me over. Uh, I think, see, India has had a good past history of designing products. We somehow lost it in the whole process somewhere. You know, colonization actually made us into babus and stopped us thinking. But I personally feel there's a tremendous scope. Basically, there's a lot of value which we add into the designs when we actually the Indianness is very very important. People may call it frugal, but at times we actually create very simple products and not very complex. I think industrial design is a profession which is here to stay. It has taken a while to actually get recognized. It's still in the process of being recognized in India. Uh, I, I would still say, in spite of being in the industry for the last 37 years, we still have to go and teach the clients, talk to the clients what benefits industrial designers can get onto the table. Yeah, I think we can start from here now. Hello?
Yeah, we heard you, Satish. Is there a
Yeah,
certain sequence that we follow or what?
I have no clue. So
I don't
let,
know. So,
I think we can continue the dialogue.
Yes.
That's,
all right.
I feel.
So, Srishti, would you want to go next and then we could pick it up from there? You're on mute.
Yeah, Shrishti, you're on mute. Mute, please.
Thank you for inviting me on this panel, and a very warm welcome to all the co-panelists, and a very happy Industrial Design Day to everybody. So I thought that I'll do the academics work and start with defining industrial design as prescribed by WDO. It's right there on their website, and I'm going to pause and emphasize on some of the key words that I feel are very, very important for everybody to take away. So they say industrial design is a strategic problem solving process that drives innovation, builds business success, and leads to a better quality of life. Again, very, very important. The idea of driving quality of life, I feel, is very, very crucial. Um, Through innovative products, systems, services, and experience. So, if you see that, even if you just look at the definition, the scope is so broad. Products is within itself a tangible object, but if you look at systems, services, and experiences, those are extremely intangible outcomes of something that one creates. And I think the magic of being in industrial design and being able to work in that strategic space is that you get to influence all the rest. And I think that's a very, very powerful place to be in. And as an academician, I'm always motivating students to think of not just designing the object itself, but what impact it's going to have on the people who use it. You may go and buy an innocuous pen, from the market, but you have to live with it for the next 10, 15 years, or however long it survives. And I think that relationship that you will develop with a pen, I think a lot of designers have to anticipate what that lifespan will be. And I think that coming back to that earlier statement, that improving the quality of life is very, very important. And I think in a country like India, there's a lot of improvement that is required, and I feel that industrial design has a place in the future. And like Satish said, it's a fairly nascent um, discipline in India. I mean, unlike when we talk about 1957, when the term was first coined, we still have a long, long way to go. And my hope is that designers and non-designers appreciate the value that industrial design can bring to the lives of others.
Absolutely. Completely agree to what Satish sir and Shrishti ma'am said. So Vasant sir has a very, I had a word with him once and he has a very, I'll say वो होता है ना arrow वाला like with that nishana of Arjuna. He has that point of view. So would love to hear from Vasant ji.
Oh, I take that as a compliment. Thanks, Pooja, for that. See, in 1957, when the WBO was formed, and if you look at India in terms of how it progressed, I mean, we're just coming out of the throes of the freedom struggle, gaining independence. And if you were to look at the genesis of the creation of the institution, take the example of the IIM Ahmedabad and NID Ahmedabad, both were sort of instituted at around the same time. But if you look at the employment ratios in terms of how people got absorbed into industry, industry then was more about managing what you had. It was not so much about creating. And therefore, in terms of an employment curve, the much sought after talent was management, and it was not so much about design. And it's only in the 1980s when Narasimha Rao came and started, liberalizing the country because we had to. That is when we started, industry was forced to sort of sit up and look, oh, now we need to create something on our own because there's competition that's going to come our way. So we first started with, painting products because that's the easiest thing to do. Then we went to the east with old molds because we didn't have the expertise or the wherewithal to create products over here. Then we started doing a bit of reverse engineering. Then we started doing a bit of tweaking, and then we started doing so. From the 80s till about 2010, 11 is when the profession in an industrial context actually began to gain importance. And if you look at the way it has grown over the last, accelerated over the last 10 years, in corporate India, you have designations like CDO, which were completely alien. You have a chief design officer that can occupy a board seat or at least a near board seat in terms of making a difference to the business as such. So, right from components to aggregates to sub-assemblies to assemblies to products to product systems to a range of products, that's how the whole thing has grown. And if you were to ride this whole bandwagon of sustainability, which is a very loosely coined word, and what does it mean for industrial design, it it works at two levels. So when you sort of start conceiving a product or a product system, it needs to be distributive. It doesn't need to be monopolistic. So that's the first shift that we need to sort of look at when we're talking about design per se. So it is a question of how you configure the product. And you can look at it from a waste perspective, and you can look at it from an employability perspective. An employability perspective in terms of, can be how easy is it to repair and maintain? How easy is it to redistribute? How easy is it to remanufacture parts? And the last one is what we all talk about, which is recyclability. And when you look at it from the waste quadrant, it is, wasted raw materials. Have you taken more than what you need? Can you cut down actually what the number of raw materials that you need to create that particular product? Are they wasted capacities, which is to say, I use the product for 1 hour in a week, and for the rest 6 hours and 6 days and 23 hours, it is just sitting somewhere, which is wasted capacity. Then you have wasted life cycle. If something were to break down, is the entire product thrown away, or can I make it modular? Can I make it upgradable? Can I make it repairable? Can I make it manufacturable? So that, the raw material remains in use for the highest intended function that it was chosen for. And then the last thing is about wasted resources, which includes human capital. So design per se, from a siloed approach of, what we had sort of coined or what we were sort of used to at NID or the other design schools, wherein you had textile design, you had furniture design, you had product design, you had exhibition design, and and ceramic design in a small way. These came under the ambit of industrial design. Then you had communication design, animation, etc., etc. So now it's a question of creating an experience, because people, even employees, seek purpose. They are not there to obey orders. They want purpose because purpose is what attaches them. Because the way they sort of, have a worldview of what they would like to sort of associate with, it's not about aggregation of material wealth. It is more about, this whole thing about why should I do this? what is the why in it, not so much as the what and the how in terms of how much money I earn and what is my designation, so on and so forth. So it's actually a behavioral change that we can influence by the way we configure things. And so, when you talk about systems in academia, it was largely to do with social systems, public service systems. But now the system is very much within an organization in terms of how I tie up various things to bring it together, because you have the digital coexisting with the physical, and that throws up a completely new way of the way we experience things. So I leave it at that in terms of what the role of design is today.
Very well said, Basant.
Thank you, sir. Very well said, sir. Yes. And looking at all the point of view of you all, India has been, like sir has also mentioned about becoming design centric, and now it has moved. But do you think in future we are going up? Like, for example, if we say all the new products and new designs are mostly coming from I'll say China or some Japanese, uh, new creative designs come up. Where do you see the scope of India in coming 10 years?
Should I take this?
So,
So, uh, what is happening is, let's take the history of China. China learned and bridged the gap learning from the Japanese. I think what they did was they bridged the gap between technology, manufacturing, material science, quite a lot. And they have emerged into a very big giant for design. There's a lot of good startups, but India is not behind now. I mean, just today's paper, yesterday, there was an entire, the T Hub, which was inaugurated in Hyderabad, which is going to house 2,000 startups. I think in today's day and age, I think the startup culture is something which is really accelerating very fast. I see a lot of future for design because, designers will act as a catalyst between engineers, a catalyst between business professionals, marketing people, uh, producers, and eventually align with the customers. Because you're going to do experience design, you're going to do a whole lot of things, and most of these startups are going to require the help of industrial designers. So I think the startup culture is already very active in India, but now it's just going to take off. I think in the coming 5-10 years, we're going to see a lot of unicorns coming out of India.
I'll just take it forward from what Satish said. See, when you're talking about startups, there are three elements that need to come together for a sustainable or for a scaling up, so to say, in terms of the business sense. You've got basic human needs which really do not change. You've got the drivers of change in terms of how, what are the fundamental shifts that are happening at a much larger scale. And then you have got innovation. So it is a combination of these three that actually brings together of a sustainable startup. Because if you just have basic human needs and if you have drivers of change, you'll end up with unmet human needs because the technology access is missing. Then when you have basic human needs and you've got innovations and then you don't sort of loop in the drivers of change, you'll just get more of the same. I mean, you'll get variations of the existing propositions which are there. And if you're talking about innovations and drivers of change and miss out on basic human needs, or it doesn't meet basic human needs, it is just, it's not relevant at all. So the point is, most startups need to balance these three axes to get something going. Many of them, tend to be hovering around drivers of change and innovation and forgetting the complete, the entire thing about basic human. Is it really required? Is it really doing anything? Is it providing a sense of purpose? Anything of that sort. So that's the larger context in which this entire startup ecosystem or the canvas needs to be viewed. And I think that's the larger one, which I think is there. The progress of industrial design in India has a lot to do with the innovation index of the country. So where is India on the innovation index? I mean, wherever you have need for fundamental research, need for design interventions, the innovation index of those countries is unusually high. So if you talk about Japan, if you talk about Europe, even US for that matter, this is what is, I mean, it's the backbone which allows domains like these to come up and grow. So while the government of India is doing a fair amount in terms of, ensuring that startups somewhere, you need to move up on all of this, and industry has a big role to play in terms of, upping the innovation index in terms of trying out new things, which is not to say you throw your entire, you be completely risk averse and then not do anything, but some element of this needs to be built into the ecosystem, which is to do with the legal framework, which is to do with the entire, policy making, so on. So it's a large thing, but essentially innovation index and the growth of fundamental research and design are very closely linked. So we up that, yes, it moves up better. So I
Just
feel.
to take on from what Vasanji said, I think the ecosystem in which innovation perpetuates, I think that's something that needs to be fostered a lot more in India. I mean, if you're going to compare it with China, then we have to see how quickly they're able to bring the kind of technology they need to make that innovation happen, or the fact that you have funds available through the government, and you have legal frameworks to ensure your IPR issues don't become a roadblock to taking things to the market. So the question for India, I guess, from my perspective, is whether the private entrepreneurial kind of industry are the ones who are fostering the ecosystem, or is it going to be government led, or there needs to be a partnership between industry and government. So considering this is an MSME platform, I think for me, the larger question about industrial design and the future of industrial design in India is also whether, how these two sort of wheels come together to drive industrial design forward. Because I think there are a lot of ambitious and aspirational students that I see, but for them to be able to actualize and take it ahead, I think those challenges still remain today in this country.
Yeah.
What I feel is money is never the issue.
And
It's
that's
actually it's in
intention.
people's mind actually. It's the industry which has to show some kind of hunger and a willingness to do something different. They are buried in the archives of the past even today. What does a lathe? I mean, a lathe is a lathe is a lathe. All the lathes look the same. All CNC lathes look the same. Who has defined what a lathe should look like? So I always believe that we have to challenge prior art, look at what has been done in the past and how it can be better. And again, it connects all the dots what Vasant was also talking about. Talk about sustainability, talk about, today's day and age, most of the products are designed with a shorter lifespan. I mean, I still use a 15-year-old car, which is all as good as a brand new car even today. So, we have to look at all these things. And industry should have this willingness to take up challenges. They should have the hunger. In Hindi, they say, karke dekhte hai. That attitude is not there in the Indian industry even today. That cuts to do something different. And that's what China has done. They conceptualize an idea and do it. Here we think of doing it for 3 years, and by the time the technology is old or the product idea is old. So speed is a very big essence. And most importantly, I think, see, most designers in India are, focusing more on problem solving. So for us, most clients who come to us is with a problem which they've not really identified. So for a client, the problem is a problem, but for us, that's actually not the problem. The root cause is something different. So identification of problem is the most primary thing for any designer, I would say, any field of design.
Yeah. So taking on what Satish said, actually the job of design is to redefine the problem.
Yes.
Everybody is like, the client is stating a problem and he's through with half the sentence and we are ready with 10 solutions, without willing to really step back, ask why, and then get on to something. The other thing is, another good example that I'd like to give in the Indian context is Tata Motors. I mean, if you look at the passenger cars now, what has happened in the last 2 years, I mean, a 5-star NCAP rating is something great to talk about. And the way they have revamped it, earlier they were just hovering around one Indica, and they were tweaking the bonnet and they were extending one boot and all that. They called it the Indigo and etc. etc. But they are now, I think, number 2 in terms of passenger vehicle sales in India, which is a huge, I think maybe number 3 after Hyundai, after Maruti. But that's a huge step to have taken in terms of, redefining their entire portfolio and then getting cars, what people like or prefer, and so on. The other thing is about students today. I've taken projects and I still take courses at NID and other design schools. Students don't want to dirty their hands. They think the screen, they want to create physical products looking at the screen now. How are you ever going to get anything out which makes sense? Unless you feel it, unless in automotive, even today, the clay model is the Bible. You can have the best software in the world, you can have the best technology in the world. If the clay model is not done by that clay modeler, nothing goes through. That is sensitivity, that is skill. You cannot, sort of distance yourself from the touch and feel if you're creating a physical product. And a similar thing goes for a virtual thing as well. So, this whole thing about, rigor, discipline, dirtying your hands, prototyping, that's the only way you become better. Not by sitting on the screen in an AC room and say, oh, this is done. And I think this is what the consumer will want. And you have no clue about anything for that matter.
One step going back on what Vasant said, it's not just clay modeling for us, it's even today just sketching. The minute you sketch on a paper, the neurons connect. Vacuums and all is fine, but the minute it's for me, if I write a note on, in my mobile phone, I don't remember. But the minute I've written with the hand, I definitely remember that I've written something. So there is a lot of value in actually sketching, and which is getting lost out today.
I want to just go back to what Satish, you had mentioned earlier about identification of problem, and I think that's a very, very crucial part of being a designer. And in fact, I was today reading that there's a Dr. Patricia Moore who's been given the medal this year by WDO, and one of the mainstay of her work has been research, where she dressed up in prosthetics as an 80-year-old when she was 26 herself, and went around the US to understand what kinds of social functional issues the senior citizens face in a country like the US. It's phenomenal that she did it for 10 years. Just the body of research that one would collect and then be able to respond from a place of design is fantastic. And I also feel that today there is a lot of students who after finishing college go to the industry and come back and say, well, we don't really get time to do any research, we're simply sort of tweaking, we're always sort of doing the kerning on the radial dial of a car, for example. I think the question also is that in terms of good industrial design outcomes, for me the research is also a huge driver of innovation and the design itself. And I don't see a lot of focus on industrial design research in India, and I feel that that is also a huge lacuna at the moment.
I want to connect with what Satish said, that the hunger has to come from the industry. If your industry is not wanting to grow worldwide, there will be no funds for the designers to research or do anything. Like, for example, Mahindra and Mahindra had their hunger to grow. So they engaged a designer like Kripa, who changed the look of SUVs. From there on, you have seen the Mahindra beat all of the Indian companies just because they invested in design. So the investment comes from the intent or the hunger, like rightly Satish said, because I might want to do many great things, but the industry has to ask for it, because somebody has to produce it. Somebody has to want that change. Because I've been speaking to many industrialists, and yes, they want a very great design, but they don't want to invest either the money or even the time. They don't want to wait for the results. They will say, okay, this is my machine. See, I am in a hurry, so I have 1 week, and give me something in 1 week. Those kind of people are there.
That's always the case. That's always the case. It's a question of nobody wants to go through the dirty work They all want the glamorous end product without realizing what it takes to create the glamorous end product. You know, and taking on from what Shrishti said, she's talking about design research and empathy. I mean, today this entire jargon of design thinking is what the first word in that is what empathy. What is design research? Empathy. That's what she's done for 10 years.
Right.
We only want to talk about it. We want to make PowerPoint slides. We want to tell it to other people, but practice it. No, people will listen to you a lot more.
I
For
mean,
me,
wasn't empathy impregnated from day one in NID, Vasant? I
Yeah.
mean, it's and design thinking also.
Yes.
In a way, so.
We've just managementized the jargon. That's what it is.
well, empathetic leadership is a new cool MBA term that's come about. So we're hoping that there are better decisions that are taken in the future. But I wanted to come back to this question about industry innovating and wanting to change. But what I've also experienced, and this is basic economics, that industry is not going to make that extra effort unless there's a demand from the customer or the users to say, no, I want this better product. So I want to bring this question back to whether for us to educate people, or at least the larger audience, about what is a better product or what one should be demanding. I mean, it sounds a bit vague at the moment when I say it out loud, but the question is that in automotive, because there was a lot of competition from international brands, the Indian automakers had to push themselves. And going back to what Vasant had said earlier about the influx of products internationally, so is the industry waiting for the consumers to wake up and say, oh, wait, hey, I don't want this, I want a better product? Or is it something that
Froze.
Lost it.
Anyway, while her audio returns, anyway, the consumer is never going to wait. Consumer will buy from China or wherever, who's already has the idea. So it is for the up to the industry to keep track of the consumer and their needs and keep
No, I just
themselves
have another
continuously
view.
investing.
I just have another point there, which is,
Ji,
what
ji,
is
ji,
it
Vasant.
that the industrial design profession or professionals in the industry or outside industry or linked with industry, are they playing that evangelical role to say that this is the way you can also do it? Because many a times it may be just a one-track mind that is trying to make decisions on, do I invest or can I do it or should I do it or not? There is an evangelical role that designers need to play to say, look, you can do this better, you can do it this way. Many a times it is just the lack of that particular contrary viewpoint that is missing in so many things. So to me it is.
See, of course, I think almost all designers kind of even like when we meet a client, we are kind of an evangelist and mentor to the client and trying to suggest things to them. So somewhere their intent, of course, has to match our passion, because yeah, we suggest to them, give them some ideas, but they have to take that final call whether they want to actually break the market or they are content with how they are doing. See, like you rightly mentioned, that designer's role is near the top management. It is not away from the management. Sanjay jo aapne like bola tha, and even Satish ji ne bola ki central role hona chahiye. So I think that is very important. Only then the mindset of business leaders can change. So the designer has to be bouncing ideas on a daily basis. But there are only two ways about it. Like either the designer is inside the company if they have to have a daily access. Outside the company, when we engage into a project, that access is that privilege of that access is never there. So that becomes a problem for an outside designer to contribute more.
Not really, Praveen. See, the thing is, you need to you need to have on a time axis, you need to show them small wins first to gain acceptability. Because the moment you show them small wins, something that is there on a 2-month basis, a 6-month basis, they will start listening to you in terms of credibility for greater investment over a longer time frame. We come says, we'll change the world. No, he doesn't want the world to change. He wants Okay, you show me what little things you can do first. Because I've got finite money and I'm a little worried about my uncertainty in the industrial scenario for my existence and growth. So
Ji,
that's the
sure.
other thing that I find that from an academic standpoint, there is this the mental calisthenics of short-term gains versus like medium-term gains and long-term gains. For us, design is it's on one axis that amount of time. Can we have 3-month interventions, 6-month interventions, 1-year interventions? Industry will be a lot more open to listen to you in terms of it is not so risky for me to invest, but it will show me a small gain in this particular area. Then that pie slowly grows. Somewhere we need to play that role too, is what I feel.
Yes, surely. Like you, I've also been meeting the industry. So yes, we do keep on trying to intervene as far as possible and suggest small changes. In fact, a lot of times we have given some small changes even at no cost. So that they can see the benefit sometimes.
Satish can throw much more light on this because he's been
So,
through.
so
Ji, ji.
typically what happens, for example, healthcare products. I mean, that's a
Ji,
classic
ji.
case where clients come to us saying that, this is a technology which is available in the developed countries and we want to replicate something in India. So can you get the cost down? Now, first and foremost, design is not value engineering, is what we normally tell the clients. It's value creation. Look at the BOM cost between a Samsung Galaxy, the top end, versus an iPhone 13. It's not more than 2,000, but it sells at double the price. So first of all, we tell the client design is value creation. Secondly, if it's a medical product, what we do is we actually understand what is it that the equipment does, what kind of diagnosis it does. So as long as you can create the output without any compromise, you can actually come up with radically different. I mean, the classic case is we've developed a asphyxic baby, for saving asphyxic babies, which otherwise cost 16 lakhs. Today, our product is 1 lakh, but does not even
Ji.
require electricity. So end of the day, we tell our client what is your end result, what is your end goal, what you're looking at. Don't tell us to just create another cooling system or cath labs, for stenting and angiography, angioplasty. As long as the image quality is not compromised, the surgeon is jolly well going to use your equipment. And
Ji.
our price is 1/3 today than the GE, Philips, Siemens, Shimatsu's of the world. And today Philips bought my client lock, stock, barrel. So, what I feel is again that willingness and that hunger to karke dekhte hai is
Exactly right.
what is the most lacking thing. Luckily, we've had a client who actually told us saying that, are you willing to learn for 15 years at our cost? So it's given us a timeline to complete a product in 15 years. We learned at his cost and completed the product in 13 years and 4 months. It's very rare to get a client like this, but
Ji, bilkul.
and that to an Indian multinational. So proud Indian multinational, I would say. So, designers are there. We have the skills. It's, that hand holding with industry is very, very important.
Right.
And
I think
industry has,
let us
government
hear
has
out
the money.
Kopal. Can we hear out Kopal because the young designer is amongst us? What
Okay,
does
so
she feel?
yes, Kopal has raised hand also. I was just waiting for a chance, but this discussion is going so fruitful. Like
Yeah.
I have never been a part of such interactive panel. So over to you,
Yeah.
Kopal.
Indeed, Pooja ma'am. I think it's a privilege for me to hear from everybody today. So I'm really new to the industry. I joined NID in 2019. And I think even at that time, most of my friends were clueless, what is industrial design? I did my mechanical engineering degree just before that. So most of them were like, are you going to design industrial backgrounds or something? And then I had to really sit with them and tell them, this is what industrial design is and not what you're thinking. So I think one interesting thing about the question about Chinese innovation is I have noticed that they rely a lot on open source innovation. While in the US culture, I've noticed that they have a lot of patents and they get stuck into these legal formalities, which often stops them from going ahead and
working on the design that if they want to do. So maybe an open source innovation could help in that case, that you have access to others' innovation, you open it up, and then you see how you can make it better. And in return, the other industry can also learn from you, and they can also, overall improve the product. So I think probably promoting a culture. I'm so sorry. So probably promoting. Oh, sorry. So probably promoting a culture of open source innovation could also lead to more innovation in India. I would like to hear your thoughts on that.
So,
Actually, taking it, that's sorry, Satish. See, the one tenet of sustainable design is actually making design circular. See, our current way of designing is very linear. We take, we make, we waste. And when we take, we assume that the earth has got an infinite capacity to provide us with resources. And when we waste, we assume that the earth has got an infinite capacity to absorb all that we throw out. Moment you connect the waste with the take, which is to say you make design circular, you start seeing all the elements that are being consumed, including consumables, the energy, the raw material, all of that. And when you start seeing it, you start noticing it. When you start noticing it, you start looking at opportunities that can get created because of the visibility that it is providing. So the future of design is actually to make it distributed and regenerative. So the whole thing about distributive design is what is open source innovation. And that is one of the bedrocks that the future of, if you're talking sustainability cannot go without circularity. Circularity in design is the way we put things together. And Vineet, just taking on to what Satish had said about the medical product that he had created, I think the product that he would have created would be 10 times more robust than the one that is available abroad, while giving it at 1/3. So India needs robustness of design, We don't want it to be laden with features. We want it to do a few things and do a few things well, because that's what our infrastructure is. And infrastructure is not the metros. Infrastructure is everything other than the metros and the tier one cities. So it's the question of, looking at the environment in which we need to make the thing happen. And which is, see, when you talk about innovation also, it's like this. The innovation is first done by the people who are actually closest to the problem. So if you want to have innovation on the shop floor, is the operator the set of operators who are going to come up with it. Then you will have these management consultants coming in, make one theory out of it. Then you will have the academicians coming in. Sorry, Shrishti, no hard feelings intended. Then they will write a book about it. But who's actually done it? The fellow on the shop floor.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Vasant, you're absolutely right. So when you're designing a machine, it's for the shop floor guy, not for the management. If there's a smile on the worker's face, the product is safe for him to use, he's happy to use it. He should feel proud to use it, and he should have that pride of ownership of that equipment. So, for example, on one side, we develop medical products to save someone's life. The other side, we actually have design products to take someone's life. It's an irony, it's a 180 degree. So there we actually work with the Jawans. So, for example, at now we actually with the infantry department, understanding their needs, understanding their problems. And today, our carbine, which is almost getting commissioned into manufacturing very soon. So it's very important to understand your customer and his needs, the most important. And Kopal, you talked about open source. I think the first thing which a designer should learn, which is getting missed out somehow in the academics, is how to read patterns. It's very important. You end up designing a product, spend 8 months on it, then you realize, oh my God, somebody already has a patent of it. So you're losing that eight months.
Yeah, that has happened with me.
When we start any project with the client, the first thing we do is a prior art search to understand what not to do. And I think that has worked wonders for us.
The whole patent or not to patent is always going to be a big debate, because there are industries that do monetize patents, and even if there's a takeover, they sell it off to somebody else. So I think if there's a way to make money, so it's a much larger debate, and I don't think it's easy to answer that question.
No, but when your stakes are higher,
Stakes are
having patents is most important.
Yeah, that's true. And you also don't want somebody to abuse the what you have created. So it's a complex conversation for sure. But I think there are ways to look at, especially if you're working in the social domain, where Creative Commons kind of things can be used. So maybe not high-end industrial products where the stakes are very, very high, like Satish said, but definitely in community-driven projects, in especially in the social realm. I think there is a lot of open source exchange that does happen when you're innovating there, because people are more freely willing to share their learning. So I think it depends on the area you're focusing on, and not so much. It's not a singular fight between patent versus open source, I think.
See, typically
Yeah,
in pharma, you're talking millions and millions of dollars in research, so you can't afford not to file for patents.
Well, another thing about your thing that what you mentioned about open source innovation and all that. If we start connecting diverse sets of industries, wherein if you were to follow the simple rule of nature, waste from one is food for another. In there, if you start the interconnectedness and therefore the distributiveness of what it is, an ecosystem will thrive. So it is not a monopolistic kind of a thing to say that only I gain and everybody else loses. Everybody needs to gain for the system to survive, which is a fundamental shift in the way we think from an economic standpoint.
Okay, getting your point of views is like an over thing for me, because it's something new that I'm listening to, and there's something new that I'm learning today. I'm sure Ravi sir would also agree with me, because we are sitting with the best designers of the country and getting their views on industrial design, and whereas me and Ravi sir, we are not designers.
No, I am not the best designer in the country,
Even
for
none
sure.
of us can claim that.
We just love what we do, I think. That's about it.
So when we love what we do, that's the best thing we can do. And
Then titles come.
Yeah.
Ravi sir,
So,
would you like to share something? I think Popal
Geeta
wants to
ma'am,
say something.
no,
Yes.
I just want to say that I think everyone is a designer. Like we subconsciously design every day in our life and we don't realize it. So I think you both are also designers.
Thank you. We'll take it as a compliment, because otherwise I used to think I can't design anything.
See, one has to even design strategies. Everything has to be designed. Even strategies have to be designed.
I believe in the audience there are a lot of students today also. So just the whole world is now talk. I just wanted to make a very simple comment, which I face a problem day in and day out. I think the whole world is moving and talking about 3D printing. There are advantages and disadvantages, and I want to spell out one disadvantage of that is the minute you fired a file and you've got a 3D print product, you think it's manufacturable. No. People have just missed out on what are draft angles, what are the wall thickness issues, what are the sink mark issues, your product is going to be molded, how is it going to be demolded. That is just not looked into, and that is actually creating a far bigger problem from the academics point of view, is what I would say. We get I have 80% of the students we get today have zero knowledge of production processes. Vasant was also mentioning earlier clay modeling. Yes, unless you go to shop floors, see how it's made, hear the noise, feel the heat, feel the dust, you're not going to learn sitting in a classroom on a laptop. This is my old school thought, but it does work wonders if you're there feeling things.
No, I also
It's
agree. I
not
mean,
old school actually, Satish, because if you look at 3D printing and if you look at manufacturing is subtractive in nature. 3D
Yeah,
printing is additive in nature.
adequate.
The two are fundamentally different in terms of how you approach it.
no, I was just going to add that I think for all the students sitting here, please make sure you study DFMA. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
It is designed for manufacturing and assembly. It's a very, very, very important aspect of being able to actually see your ideas into execution and have them come out. It's very, very critical. And I absolutely agree. I think being on the shop floor, so one of my worries as an academician is that because of those 2 years of pandemic, we do have a large subset of students who have never had the chance to go out and experience whether the industry or whether hands-on exploration in the classroom. And I think we have to contend with help from industry, that when they do come into the industry, there will be a learning phase that we will have to bring to the table, because they unfortunately have not had any chance to do that. So it's going to be a gap that'll take a few years to fill, I think, for sure.
I think I can completely agree with you, Shrishti, because I am the student that was in pandemic, and I totally realize that we have lost a lot of things. We have not had, like, the shop floor thing. I think I definitely agree with that. That a lot of things went missing from our education, and studying at home on a laptop was studying industrial design on a laptop was pretty hard for me. So yeah, I mean, I look forward to all the industries also, who could support students, and not expecting too much from them, knowing that what they have gone through in a pandemic. So probably, yeah, the students also need support from industries to cover up all those gaps. Yeah.
Exactly.
Just
And
to say that,
on the same line, I would say we also, as a sector skill council, need support from industry, because we are here to work with the academia and with the industry to bridge this gap and make India a skill capital of the world. With this, I think this conversation that has been going on for last 1 hour has been so fruitful for me. I have personally learned a lot, and I'm sure our audience as well. I have never seen, Ravi sir listening so excitedly to a conversation. So this is a one big thing about this, having this panel discussion today on industrial design. Trust me, we have learned a lot, and in order to make and come up with the industrial designers and come up with the winning at gold at international a podium for industrial design technology, we would always need your support and guidance.
I was there.
So,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, listening to all the specialists, all the, I should say, the renowned designers, well, what I find is still a lot to improve, and the country has to really grow. So what I think is the government, the industrialists, the designers, it has to be a collaborative effort. It has to, well, the scope is vast. The awareness has to be created. And definitely another thing which just sidesteps me is, we refer about the European countries uh, becoming industrialized nations. But still, what I find among the youngsters, that awareness and that zeal is still not there. Where I find my yardstick is from the world skill competitions, the people joining for this competition, industrial design, from the European countries are practically nil. They all are coming from Asian countries. That also is a big surprise. Why this is there, that from the European countries, people are not coming forward. Either they have attained, which is not there, the lot of more, growth is there, better things have to come up, faster, speedier, economical, as we talk of sustainable, is good. Yes, but definitely this has been a very good discussion. Educated, yes. Interesting, definitely. But more needs to be done. And how that could be done is, you are the people who have to really come forward, work as an advisory capacity to the government, to the industry, and have your say and see that things work so that improvement is there. And definitely India becomes आत्मनिर्भर जैसे बोलते हैं, those the government, I should say, they plans also succeeded. From my side, it's been interesting. Thank you so very much once again. But Pooja did tell me we must close it at 11:15, so she's coming carrying around, and Vineet has to join another debate as well. Thank you so much once again,
In
and
World
we'll
Design
try to
celebration.
connect
Thank
personally
you.
also. Celebration, a day of celebration. We should have been practically meeting and celebrating this day. Good.
Definitely.
Congratulations to
Next
all of you
year.
once again. Yeah.
Thank you and all the best. Have a great day ahead.
Thank you. All the
Signing
best.
off.
Very much.
Signing off.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you really for coming over this panel discussion at such a short notice. And we really appreciate it. And yes, we are looking forward to meet you in person because now it's possible. So soon, maybe next month or next to next month, whenever as per your availability, we'd like to meet you all. So thank you so much for your time, and you guys have a very good and very happy World Industrial Design Day as Industrial.
Signing off. All the best and
Good.
have a
That's
great
all.
day.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.